Hi, and welcome back to another chat with the two pondering pagans. I'm Rook.
And I'm Salann. Today, we are going to talk about the Sabbats.
We will walk you through some of what we do in our celebrations and our experiences with the Sabbats.
In this discussion, we're going to introduce you to some of the Sabbats of the pagan traditions that Rook and I have been exposed to. This can include things like Pagan, Wiccan, and Druid. Those will be the biggest ones. We will be doing more detail on each in another video, so like some specific rituals and associations for the different Sabbats. But we wanted to share with you some of our thoughts with, just introduction-wise, I guess. So let's start with the definition of a Sabbat and then a quick mention of Esbats.
All right, sounds good. A Sabbat is considered one of the great celebrations on the wheel of the year. As the earth, sun, and moon have their cycles, so are they too celebrated as the Sabbats. There are greater and lesser Sabbats in our tradition, but before we get to that, Salann, can you tell us exactly what an Esbat is?
And right before that, I want to mention that even greater and lesser Sabbats and Esbats, just because they have celebrations, doesn't mean we don't include all of them in all of the celebrations.
Right.
Just, there's some focal points. So really, an Esbat, which we're not going to talk too much about today, we'll do that in a separate video too, but an Esbat really by definition is just any ritual meeting other than a major festival. We often refer to Esbats, or when we say Esbats, we're talking about a full moon ritual. Like that's what most people I think say. Originally, it was coined from the French word sabatre. I butchered that, guarantee it.
Sabatre?
Sabatre.
Sabatre, sabatre, sabatre.
So that French word, that one, during the witch trials, it was used to refer to as secret witch gatherings. Some, well-known occultists and pagans, such as Doreen Valiente, made a point to separate full moon Esbats from other Esbats, as a lot of people do now. But an Esbat, even though it generally is referring to a moon celebration, it's not only a moon celebration.
Not only a moon. Okay. So we will get started, and as we go through the greater Sabbats, we will share some of our own experiences, and then compare a bit when we go to the lesser Sabbats with the Druid path. We will be doing this in a different order than many other books and videos out there to offer a different perspective. It can be confusing this way, so we will try and keep you with us as we go through it.
So we'll start with the four greater Sabbats: Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane, and Lunasa. These are generally the same across many different traditions, although some of the names might be slightly different. Granted, that's not an always thing, as most everything in paganism is. It's reconstructed. So now while we'll share some traditions, some associations, and a little bit of the history that we've learned along the way, we're not really going to go into the ritual or like the actual celebrations of them just yet. So that's coming. We're going to do videos as the Wheel of the Year turns over the next year and kind of put that together. In the meantime, though, hopefully, this will really give you an idea of what you can do to celebrate and really make your own festival. So let's start with Samhain. So I am sure a lot of you, if not all of you, have heard of Samhain. It's spelled S-A-M-H-A-I-N. Wait, what? That doesn't sound like Samhain, right? So there's many pronunciations of Samhain, but which one is not a pronunciation of Samhain?
Samhain, which I did in the beginning. Samhain.
It is not pronounced Samhain. It's not Samhain now, you hear?
But I'm country. I'm from Texas.
Call it what you want. Celebrate it, right? So Samhain is a festival and celebration that really marks the end of harvest and entry into the darker part of the year. Generally held on November 1st, obviously close to Halloween on 10/31. It includes the days prior to and just after as well. So days get shorter, nights are longer, and it is believed to have a Celtic pagan origin. It is considered a liminal festival, which a liminal festival, like Beltane also, means that the veil between the physical and the spirit plane, whatever you call it, is thinnest, whether it's astral or whatever. This makes that contact with other realms easier. Many celebrate Samhain with Halloween in the U.S. I think we kind of do that, but we do Halloween as a Halloween, and then the day after, we really do that Samhain and that ancestor remembrance piece of it. But the meaning is much deeper than that. For us, we celebrate our ancestors, we ask them for guidance and protection, and prepare them for the coming seasons that are less fruitful. I mean, that's what happens as the winter approaches. Lots of witches do call this their New Year's celebration, so this is the beginning of the witches' New Year. Samhain associations are numerous. There are tons, a lot of them very similar to Halloween, which makes sense because as time goes, those things kind of merge together. So you have colors of black and orange, but also deep, dark purples, almost black but not quite, and blues. Dirt, soil, the earth, graveyard, candles, skulls, remembrances, bones, all those things. And images are used quite often. Deities such as Hecate, Morrigan, Caradwin, Kali, Osiris, and a ton more are often honored during this time of year. Harvest foods are typical, including the herbs that go with them, such as allspice, clove, anise, and corn, wheat, oats, and pumpkins, turnips, often used in meals, desserts, and decorations. And might I just add that pumpkin spice is a brew.
Potion.
Clove, cardamom, and cinnamon.
So just thinking, should we be saying Halloween to
Shut up.
mimic
I'm
Samhain?
not talking to you.
After Samhain, the next greater Sabbath is Imbolc. Now notice we didn't go to Yule, which is next on the wheel of the year, around December 20th to 23rd, depending on the year. Yule is considered a lesser Sabbath, and I agree. So we will discuss that in a bit. Back to Imbolc, I don't mean that. It's not a lesser Sabbath. Back to Imbolc, which is usually celebrated February 1st and or 2nd. Imbolc marks the beginning of spring and is sometimes called Breed's Day or Saint Breed's Day. Imbolc is a day of crafting and creating, preparing to become fruitful again and cleanse the universe back to a state ready to bloom. In some traditions, children craft breeds, crosses, and straw boys to be placed at an altar or later burned on a bonfire. Lore has it that if you make Breed a bed and a place at the table with food for her, she will bless you for the year as she is a protector of hearth, home, and animals. Although not truly known, it is believed that the word Imbolc comes from the Old Irish noun meaning pregnant ewes. Ewes, E-W-E-S, ewes. Breed, remember, is all about the animals. Or perhaps the Irish verb fulcum, referring to the practice of cleansing. The earth is about to get its first warming of spring and new sprouts are forming. As herd animals around the world usually give birth to the first offspring or are very pregnant and full of milk, it is also called a milk or the milk of ewes. Ewes or ooze? Ewes? Some great associations to go with Imbolc. Some great associations to go with Imbolc include colors of white, pink, yellow, light green, and light brown with herbs such as basil, blackberry, heather, iris, cinnamon, vanilla, myrrh, and violet are some instances to burn for Imbolc. I'd actually like to burn cinnamon and vanilla.
That's painful.
And violet together.
Moving on. So now we're going to move to summer with Beltane on or about April 30th or May 1st. Sometimes this is called the May Day Festival. It's a fire festival, often celebrated with bonfires for protection. One thing I learned actually just through going through some research, and I think this is a great idea I'm going to start doing, is saving the ash or even part of the wood of the Beltane fire year-round in your home offers extraordinarily strong home protection. I have heard that from the wood from Beltane, but never thought about really just the ash. That makes sense. You can make lots of things with that. So it's often celebrated by walking either through, around, between, and or over the fire in a symbolic cleansing.
I like that.
The name Beltane is often said to mean the fire of Bel, referring to the sun god Belanus. Belanus, there's quite a few different sun gods with Bel in the name of it, actually. Summer has begun. We are celebrating the blossoming of the world, of the warming of the Mother Earth. Historically, Beltane was a time of unabashed sexuality and divine spark of creation. Now remember that sexuality, that's not necessarily sex. So unabashed sexuality. In the morning following the May Day festivities, the dew of Beltane, this includes rivers, streams, springs, and puddles and ponds, is collected and bathed in or drank for health. You need some. And to bring youthfulness and springiness, you need twice as much. Another thing that... Really?
Sorry.
Another thing you can do is get some fresh berries, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, whatever. Steep them with some white wine for a day or for a morning and a little pinch of woodruff, which is an herb that apparently smells like hay. And drink that. And then there's things like raisins, nuts, eggs, cheese, and fresh fruits are a staple of Beltane. They're part of that first, getting things started. They're also used in many celebrations, but usually those things are baked or cooked versus eaten fresh. Go outside, get some fresh flowers, make herb sachets, which I love doing, or floral garlands as a craft for Beltane.
And so with the sachets, do they have a other purpose?
They have lots of purposes we're going to talk about. I'll add it in a minute too.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the last of our greater Sabbats, we move to Lunasa, marking the start of the harvest season. Usually held on July 31st to August 1st, Lunasa is sometimes also called Lamas or Yamas. Generally accepted to be named for the god Lu, there's a high focus on matchmaking, teamwork, family, trading, feasting, and reaping, ultimately leading towards rest. I could use some rest now. This is a funeral rite hosted in honor of the sun god Lu's foster mother, Taelti. The offering of the first fruits to the spirits, gods, goddesses, marks a mainstay of this festival, followed by large feasts and jovial dancing and crafting. The sun is still strong but waning, and the crops are ripe and readying harvest. Autumn is beginning. Traditional foods and scents include apples, pears, and other fleshy fruits, breads, berries, rose, and sandalwood. I like sandalwood.
Sachets are great for scents, but they're also great for putting in your car, for carrying a memory of a scent of something that somebody wore, or creating something. Like I have a sachet for my dog that has a little piece of her fur in it, but then also scents like almond, which I associate with her.
Oh,
There's
nice.
Lots of other tools too. We'll do a video on that.
We should do a video on that.
So we'd love to hear how you celebrate and share, no matter how different or what your path is. Please share in the comments what you do for the greater Sabbats. Next, we're not done yet. We're going to talk a little bit about the lesser Sabbats, go through those, and then we'll have a conversation.
Now, as we move into the lesser Sabbats, it's important to note that lesser here doesn't mean less important, like I said about Yule, and I didn't mean Yule, I was talking about Christmas, but I'm just teasing. It doesn't mean they're less important. These festivals were markedly important. The classifications were brought about in a relatively more modern time. There are 4 lesser Sabbats made up of 2 solstices and 2 equinoxes. These represent the longest day and shortest days of the year for the solstices Letha and Yule, and the 2 points of equal day and night for the equinoxes Ostara and Mabon.
Mabon.
Mabon. I got a little French there. I don't know why. Mabon.
Yeah, you've been doing it all day. Let me find out you got a little French somewhere in this house. So it's also important to point out that we're doing this comparison only to show similarities in like concepts between different paths in paganism. There's no absolute here. There's tons of different ways to look at this and different names for it. This is just what we kind of picked up and learned. Some of it, really mainstream, so nothing wrong with that. We're going to go ahead and talk about Letha. So Letha is celebrated at the summer solstice, which is often called midsummer. It is the longest day of the year, where the sun has its highest rain, and often a great agricultural festival with farmers markets and dancing and drinking. It's a real big, boisterous festival of sun, of light, of growth, of long days.
Sounds like a good time.
of lots of times.
Dancing and drinking. As Salann mentioned, the summer solstice is a time of maximum light and can also be referred to as the Festival of Joy.
of Joy.
Of joy. As the countryside around us is alive with color and fragrant splendor, we too celebrate the strength and power of the sun as well as the richness of the earth. This is the most extroverted of the celebrations. This is also the point where the year begins the descent towards the time of the shortest day again. It's all a circle.
All a circle.
The circle of life, the circle of the earth.
She's hitting your mic.
Alban marks this time like Letha would in the pagan world. It is the peak of the sun's influence on the earth. The spiral of the year has expanded to its widest point, and now the hours of light are as long as they ever will be. After June 21st, 22nd, the sun's power will begin to wane again, and the days will begin to grow shorter. The sun has touched the northernmost point along the horizon and is about to begin the long journey back south, ending at winter solstice in mid-December.
So the summer solstice is a celebration steeped in red with fire and passion, creation full growth at its fastest speed. It's extroversion, integration, manifestation driven, and both vervain and St. John's wort are some of the herbs that lend to the festivals and energies at Alban or the summer solstice.
Absolutely. And make sure to go out in the sun. Do something you've wanted to do for a long time, but just haven't got the courage up to do it, or just haven't done it for whatever reason. Remember also to sit in the shadow and to work with it. Move your body through the sun's light. I like that. I like this theme of going out into the sun and experiencing that and the light and what's revealed and what's present and the warmth, and then going back to the dark where it's maybe cooler, you would think. Things aren't as visible, and dealing with that part.
See, I picture myself having my body in the shadow and the shade and then sticking out in the sun and just feeling the difference.
Yeah. An essential feature of Alban is to recognize that we are at the midpoint of the year, the turning or balance point between the waxing powers of spring and early summer and the waning powers of late summer and autumn. This is a great time to work on integration and balance.
Very much so. Which pretty much everything that we do is integration and balance, but there's a special focus there. So next we have Yule. This is the winter solstice, also called Yule tide. Themes of Yule include the wild hunt, Yule log, Yule boar, and singing are all a part of Yule, celebrating the shortest day of the year. The Christian nativity story is a recent version of the theme of the sun's rebirth. It was in 273 CE that the church officially fixed the birthday of Jesus at the time of midwinter solstice. So his birthday is not dated anywhere in the Gospels, so that was interesting to me. I mean, I knew it wasn't the exact date, but yeah. So it's fitting that they made this choice. You know, Christ is the sun god of the Piscean age, and his birth should therefore be at the time of the winter solstice. It makes sense. There's a lot of things back and forth between many different religions and spiritualities, and I think it'll be interesting to look at some more specifics about a dog.
She is doing everything to be involved in this section of the video. So, Alban Arthen, the winter solstice ceremony of the druid tradition, is poetically translated as the light of Arthur. Arthur is equated with the sun god who dies and is reborn as the Celtic son of light, the Mabon of the equinox that is now at the winter solstice. It is Arthur who will be reborn, awakening from his sleep in a secret cave in the Welsh mountains, to return as savior of the British Isles. The seed of light is born in the darkness of midwinter, the time we know as winter solstice. Solstice actually means standstill. For every year on or around December 21st, the sun appears to rise and set in the same place for a few days. It is the time of the longest night. Then, barely noticeable at first, the sun begins its long journey towards the opposite pole. A cycle of new life can begin.
You're not going in there to see the fire. The winter solstice. The shortest day of the year is associated back with our sun, although distant and cool, still present with the promise of return. So the sun, far away, can be cold, but still there. So the colors of green, midnight black, mistletoe, plants, and the earth itself are some good associations with this time frame. And the winter solstice speaks really of the night sky, death, and rebirth. Turn out the lights and spend some time with the darkness. After that, light a single candle, just one, and then go room to room in your house, lighting candles in each one. Now remember fire safety here. If you can't have it in your view or somebody's view, then you should probably set up candles that represent each of the rooms in your house in a central area so that you can keep track of them. Don't burn your house down, please.
Or you can get flameless candles online or at any retailer for safety if you must. You could also decorate your altar with some mistletoe or holly. Drink beer or mead in celebration of the rebirth of the year and look forward with hope to the next year that is beginning and plan through daydreaming. It's a great time to visit the cemetery, offer repose to even those you never knew. Observe the locations where sun enters and leaves your home. Learn to hear in the still of the night. Some essential features of Alban Arthan are the mourning and letting go of that which is finished and dying or finishing and dying, a period of inner darkness, and then the recognition of the reality that rebirth is within the soul. Rebirth can only occur once we have fully mourned the passing of the old. Once we have done this, we can then let go and open ourselves to the new. I like the dark and cold is important to observe the things which are dying and making room for the new, the next year.
Yeah. BG agrees.
BG agrees.
Moving to the equinoxes, we first have the spring equinox or vernal equinox, often celebrated as Ostara. This is the dawning of the earth and a seasonal morning with red and yellow hues of growth and beginnings. Ostara is one of my favorites. It's a very calm, just happy, slow time. Just licking her eyeball.
Oh, stop that. Alban Eilir, at the halfway point between Imbolc and Beltane, is the marker of balance between day and night and is a perfect time to be open to the point of balance in our own lives. Alban Eilir is the spring equinox celebrated around March 21st or 22nd. The sun is growing in strength and is now equal to the hours of darkness. It is highly likely that the druids of old celebrated this time of year, but there aren't records of an ancient Celtic celebration. This is likely because it was replaced with the church's festival of Easter.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of replacements of the church, and you know what? It is what it is, but...
that would have been okay if they didn't try to hide the other stuff or say that their way was right. That's the only problem I have.
They had an agenda.
They did. And it's about control. Easter, however, is named for an Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring, Eostre, whose sacred animal was the hare, the first Easter bunny. In folk custom and belief, we still see signs that people were celebrating the rebirth of the earth as much as the resurrection of Christ.
This dog is going to eat my hand.
She's got sharp teeth.
Yes, she does. She's going to start barking if I don't play with her, though. Or chewing. Stop doing this. As for some associations, think about what spring represents. things like planting and gardening, dedication to a task, rhythmic movements, which is common in many druidic things. These are all things that lend to planning for the future, developing and growing yourself or the world around you. Many people associate this time with the element of air and the color yellow, which was Vigi's color.
Yes.
Yeah, you're a yellow.
So you can also pick up a book at your local library or a bookstore, or something completely new that you're interested in but haven't started yet. The spring equinox represents a time of celebration and joy in anticipation of the spring and summer to come. It is a time of planning and expectancy. It is also a time of promise in anticipation of the promise which will occur with harvest in the autumn.
Promise. So, I guess not last but least, but finally, we do have the autumnal equinox. So this is celebrated by many pagans as Mabon, represents the earth closing or the final delivery of the fruits of the year, and then us providing thanks for what has come throughout the year and to have strength for the darker half of the year. Many also call this pagan Thanksgiving, but without the pilgrims or Puritans.
Oh, good.
Good.
That's a good one. Yeah. That wasn't very nice of me, but oh, goodness. The energy of the harvest, of completion and preparation for a new cycle that was begun at Lunasa finds its fulfillment here at Alban Elfed. We are now on the opposite side of the year as Alban Elir, the time of promise. Alban Elfed is the time of fulfillment, the time of achievement. On the circle of the year, it is placed on the west, the place of the setting sun, the evening. In the circle of our lives, it is placed at the time of the beginning of old age. We look back on the achievements and experience of our lives and let go of striving and instead enjoy the fruit of our labor and our year. No matter our age, it is a time to reflect on the harvest that is occurring No matter our age, it is a time to reflect on the harvest that is occurring on the land around us, and then on all that has happened to us and all that we have learned during the previous year. A time of true reflection.
Yeah, I think that's important.
So what's going on in the physical plane? The hours of daylight become equal to the hours of night once again. But this time, it is the dark that will soon win out. Earth is offering up her last gifts of berries and nuts in the hedgerows and woods, while in the fields the full harvest is underway, and all of nature seems to redden or turn to gold.
Ma, so cute.
And nature, the leaves, also, you might notice some bronze colors in the ray of the weakening sun.
So there's a lot of things that you might find as associations that might be different. It just you use what works for you. But for us, it's the blue waters, the colors gold, mead, wine. All those things lend to celebration at autumn equinox. Balance, achievement, and fulfillment, like Rook said, really describe the associations in the waning of the sun as the autumn equinox arrives and departs. So it's a little bit of a journey. It's a great time to start a spiritual journal or a diary. This is a way you can also record your experiences. You can feel good to get things out on paper sometimes, or video journaling, however you want to do it, and then reflect back on them at a later time on another ritual.
That's a really good idea, and something I don't know why that's hard for me to do. I really need to, do that exercise. Another thing you can do is to start your autobiography. For movement, a huge part of Druid practice, do a stag dance to honor the horn god and the wild places of the physical and astral. Put up their pictures. Think about how the animals prepare for winter. Wear horns or antlers as you dance to honor them. I think that sounds really cool.
It does.
And we've got to do that. to get the whole experience, I think. I'd like to do that. Our ancestors, who were more in tune and aware than us of their dependence on the land, for them, this was the time of fruition of the year's work. It represented the yields of the year's hard work to ensure they would have enough food to get them through the harsh winter. Can you imagine having to do that? They couldn't just go to Publix. They couldn't go to Bob Evans. They couldn't
Had
go
to
to
kill
the
your
store.
own meat.
They had to kill your own meat and prepare it. And everyone worked their hardest to bring in the grain, which would provide the following year's bread and beer, and store it safely. Beer.
Bread. So now, with all that information, that's a lot, let's put it together. There are 4 greater Sabbats, 4 lesser Sabbats. The lesser Sabbats, as you can see, are dispersed equally between the 4 greater Sabbats. So, it's greater, lesser, greater, lesser, greater, lesser, greater, lesser. So if you're going to put them in order on the Wheel of the Year, you would see Samhain starting November 1st, followed by Yule, Imbolc, Ostara, Beltane, Letha, Lunasa, and Mabon around September 21st, 24th. And then it goes right back around into that cycle again with Samhain. So it's a rotation of the process.
A circle, a circle, a circle. So the cycle repeats as the Wheel of the Year turns. You can see so many similarities between pagan, Wiccan, druid, and other practices as the celebrations of the turning of the wheel represent the changes to Mother Earth as she herself turns and the sun makes its path across the sky.
Iris. Iris is a sweet hope. So it's really impossible to cover everything in one video. We do highly recommend checking out some of the other great videos on YouTube. We will be putting a couple links of the few that we recommend and also have watched and spend a lot of time watching, because the more you bring in, the more you can bring into your practice and grow your own practice. It takes time. So we'll also begin working on sharing a Wheel of the Year videos that are in more detail for each of the celebrations on the wheel as those time frames come. So you'll get a lot more detail on the associations, the deities that we choose, which can be different than yours, and all of that ritual and stuff for those individual celebrations, Sabbats and such.
So there you have it. The Wheel of the Year may have been celebrated by our ancestors for many reasons. No doubt to include ensuring a great harvest, honoring ancestors and deities, and creating inner balance. We as pagans followed the celebrations of the Wheel of the Year to realign ourselves to the amazing cycles of the universe and earth as we experience it, bringing ourselves closer to nature and ultimately our own spirituality.
Iris is waving.
Tina's waving.
So thank you for hanging out with us on this journey around the wheel. Look soon for some more information, and remember that learning through books and videos is great, but nothing, and I mean nothing, beats a good discussion and actually experiencing these things for yourselves. Till next time, the 2 Pondering Pagans wish you a very magic future until we meet again. Bye-bye.
Blessed be and bye.
Merry meet, merry part.
Until we meet again.
Eat some food and then you fart.
God. We have got good service and a ton of busy.
You're gonna have to get Ma up.
Ma, we got to keep y'all away from the candles.
Yep. Cause she goes right to it.
You little
Scrumpet.
bastion.
I am not a bastion. I am a woman.
Oh, my soul. See, I got to get back to my reading on Hedge Witch.
See, this lights candles very well, but it does not light incense well.
Silver Ravenwolf.
It's gonna get hot in here quick. You gonna get Iris up now?
Come here, Irisy. Come on up here with Tinta. I'm a service and the phone ringing, yeah. We are magically.
Doesn't get near as hot.
Oh, well, that's good. Where'd you get that?
Oop.
Huh? Oh, you made me hit the dog.
Do that?
Because you were going to burn me.
Would I actually do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you might.
No, I would not do that.
Let's go.
We will walk you through some of what we do in our celebrations and our experiences with the Sabbats from a few different angles. Let's go. I'm going to cut that part, don't worry.
Oh, it doesn't bother me. You can do what you want to do. You're the editor. All right. Coffee is important for all days and all things. For now?
Ready?
Really? You might have to take a beat. Are you hungry?
I think she's hot. You're so cute.
I think she's feeling better.
She's definitely feeling better.
You want to go to the back, boo?
Have a taco.